Vegeta is one of the most impactful characters in the Dragon Ball series and one of the most proudest Saiyans, one of the toughest characters and strongest characters in the show as well when you see in the series and manga. Now, the question is why Vegeta never became king of all the Saiyans. Now, of course, there's some obvious answers. Some people's gonna say, because Planet Vegeta was destroyed and majority of the Saiyans was destroyed as well. And some people consider him technically he is king because, King Vegeta was taken out by Frieza, so technically Vegeta's next in line. But why, even after all of this, Vegeta still doesn't refer to himself as King Vegeta? He only refers to himself as the Prince, and that's a good question. Now, we're going to go into a couple of reasons of why Vegeta doesn't consider himself as king. Now, one theory is, of course, I think to become king, you may have to go through a certain trial or something like that, and maybe obstacle that you have to achieve that I'm sure that current Vegeta will be able to pass that if that was the case to become the king. And that could be one little thing, but since Planet Vegeta was destroyed, he probably doesn't get the chance to do that to officially become, king. Now, other thing would be more so looking back at just the whole, I'll say, structure of the Saiyans. The Saiyans are built on strength. And for a long time, for King Vegeta, he was king because he was the strongest Saiyan. That I guess I won't say he was the strongest Saiyan alive because, of course, we had characters like Broly, who he tried to order to get killed so he can, still retain his throne. So I think once it comes to a point where a character becomes stronger in the Saiyan, race, that person can pretty much challenge to become king. So due to that, I think King Vegeta would get rid of any competition, and that was a prime example when it came to a character like Broly. But when it came to Vegeta, Vegeta already had kind of like his power level as a baby, which he didn't mind as his son. So of course, Vegeta will one day take over the throne, and of course, Bardock I think was stronger than King Vegeta at the time around his death. But I think before anyone really noticed, Bardock's power, it was already too late. Frieza already blew up the planet and everything like that. So that really wasn't a question. So going back, at this point, Vegeta would have eventually became king once, King Vegeta stepped down and Vegeta got old enough to pretty much be able to run, the kingdom of the Saiyans and stuff like that. But due to everything happening with him so young, that didn't happen. So Vegeta still kind of like ruled, Nappa and Raditz and stuff like that. But as far as everything else, he didn't really get a chance to really grow up into, adult as a, Saiyan really on the planet. Now, that could play a big factor. Now, the next thing is that with Vegeta still being a prince at the time of him debuting in the series and coming to Earth, he battles Goku, who is also a Saiyan, a full-blooded Saiyan, who technically, I would say Vegeta technically won the fight, but he ultimately lost the war against Goku because Goku had help with his friends. But Vegeta still kind of seen this as like a loss for him to go down against people who was weaker than him, and that kind of affected his psyche, which put him in this competition with Goku, and with Goku even surpassing him further once they went to Namek. And at this point, Vegeta seeing Goku as the Super Saiyan, it kind of really just broke him a little bit. Now later on in the Android saga, he got his pride back by achieving the Super Saiyan transformation, but it was later short-lived once Android 18 kind of made quick work of him. And at this point, Vegeta felt like he was not worthy to be a warrior. But by him unlocking his Super Saiyan grade 2, this kind of put him back up to challenge Cell and show his dominance. But over cocky, he let Cell transfer to his perfect form, which in turn kind of took away that pride as well about him being stronger. And then Goku and Gohan coming out of the time chamber in less time than him and Trunks, and coming out way stronger than him, both Goku and Gohan surpassing, Vegeta at this point. Now, all these are things that kind of affect Vegeta, and like I said, when it goes back to the Saiyan hierarchy, is typically to be the king, you have to be the strongest. And at this point, if Goku is around and Goku is surpassing Vegeta, and Vegeta sometimes will get past Goku, and sometimes Goku will surpass Vegeta, and with all that happening, it kind of made it hard for Vegeta to solidify himself as king of the Saiyans, because he still had the obstacle of Goku being the strongest Saiyan at this point, and then later on Gohan being the strongest Saiyan, which also being a half Saiyan and half human, which this definitely kind of like put a hold on Vegeta, because at this point Vegeta is really, I would say his pride is more crushed, because he keeps on going about his royal blood and how powerful it's supposed to be, which later on it evolved to him becoming more accustomed to Earth, and kind of like not necessarily giving up on his Saiyan roots and ways and stuff like that, but more so adapting to more of the human side of things, and gaining more sense of being a human and starting a family to that nature. And even with Trunks, technically Trunks would be the new prince, but at this point, Vegeta never gonna officially adapt himself to being the king of all Saiyans due to his obstacle to overcome Goku. And at this point, this becomes something more so like Vegeta doesn't really care too much about his Saiyan, let's say the Saiyan race per se, like, because he know all the things that they were kind of doing as him evolving as a character. But I think in Super, Vegeta kind of finds a new thing for his race in Kaba, and them seeing like how they grew up not as terrible as the Saiyans in Universe 7, which to him, this is more so something that he could align with, like being around his people and not being in such a destructive way of how they were back in his own universe. So this kind of like may grow a sense of Vegeta getting ties back to the Saiyan, because like I said, he still is proud to be a Saiyan and everything, but overall he definitely had like a selfish, I won't say Vegeta was selfish because of, well, in a sense he was, because he only really cared about his survival, especially on Namek. Even though he was helping out Gohan and Krillin, it was more so to help his chances in surviving and beating Frieza at this point. So he really was doing a lot of things for his selfish, but it was a slight change, because at one point, Goku kind of had an effect on him and kind of like started changing him and started letting him know that you do need people to achieve your stuff. Even though at one point it may seem like he was using the other characters, but it definitely grew to a point where he definitely needed the help of the Z Warriors. So these are all just different theories of why Vegeta is not, king of the Saiyans, because ultimately the fact is, of course, the Saiyan race is pretty much, majority of them is gone, and his home planet is gone as well, and he never fully got his vengeance against Frieza. And then of course, like I said, to be king of the Saiyans, you have to be the strongest Saiyan. And in a lot of ways, Goku kind of helped Vegeta, turn a new leaf and grow his character in a sense, and start changing his mind state, where now Vegeta at the point can be king of the Saiyans. But I think at this point he really doesn't care nothing about that. He's still proud to be a Saiyan, and probably the most proudest Saiyan that we've seen in the whole series. But at this point, Vegeta probably doesn't even care about the titles and everything, because his home world is gone, and he's more focused on just his family and getting stronger. So that's it for this video. Get in the comments, tell us what do you think about this, and we got more videos on the way.